What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Blazers Uprise post-game show powered by BetUS. Today, your Portland Trail Blazers gave up 84 combined points to Peyton Pritchard and Derek White. Both career highs. Pritchard with 43, White with 41, and the Blazers lose to the short-handed Celtics without Jason Tatum, without Kristaps Porzingis, and without Drew Holiday by a final score of 128 to 118. Portland native Peyton Pritchard out of West Lynn scores 43 points, makes 10 threes in the first three quarters. And it was so bad, man, to the point where after hitting 10 threes, the Blazers still found ways to not be within 20 feet of him. And it's funny because those were the shots he seemed to miss, was the one where the Blazers completely and utterly collapsed defensively. This was an important game for the Blazers. You know, they have a tough schedule down the stretch, and they were facing, of course, one of the best teams in the league, the defending champs, but also without their best player, also without three starters. And the Blazers essentially had three guys to guard tonight: Jason Tatum, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard, and they miraculously failed to guard two of them as Pritchard and White destroy the Blazers. They combined for 19 threes amongst the two of them. And the Blazers lose. Eric, you've been under the weather, but you're here. I'm happy you're here. How are you feeling? How are you doing?
I'm all right. Just have this nagging cough I can't get rid of now. But, yeah, got home on Monday about the time the game was ending. Tried to start watching it and catch up, but fell asleep. It was like 20-9. We were losing. Mm-hmm. Woke back up. It was 29-29. Turned it off, passed out. Woke up off and on throughout the night, but managed to make it till 10 the next morning without going on social media or knowing what happened at all, and went back and watched the whole game and then listened to your post-game show the next day. So I managed to watch it without being spoiled, but
Nice.
But yeah, it was pretty brutal. I was just out once I hit the bed, pretty much.
Well, happy to have you here. Before we jump into this game, did you have any thoughts on last game, on the post game, anything quickly?
Not off the top of my head. I'll chime in if I remember anything later, though.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about this game, man. We're going to break down this game. We're going to break down what went wrong for the Blazers defensively. We're going to break down a couple good offensive nights. Jabari Walker, 6 for 6 from 3. Jabari Walker turned into Steph Curry, and it didn't even matter because you had two Steph Currys on the other team. Two Steph Currys beats one Steph Curry, okay? And Peyton Pritchard scores. You know, I'm going to save that joke for later, all right? All right, I'm going to save the joke that would make Reddit mad. Anyway, dude, this was just a brutal game. I want to start, we're going to recap this game, but I want to start with the bigger picture, okay, which is the season, which is the Blazers' play-in dreams. I keep saying they're dreams because I don't think they're realistic. And this was the type of game that I kind of felt like was a bit do or die for the Blazers. A bit do or die for the Blazers, all right? And I want your thoughts on this, Eric and chat, all right? I'm going to take your thoughts on this. I thought this game was a bit do or die for the Blazers because they have one of the toughest schedules in the league. They have the fourth hardest schedule in terms of winning percentage by their opponents the rest of the season. Fourth hardest, right? So ultimately, you're going to have to win games against good teams. The Blazers, on this road trip, they've basically faced two different types of teams, Eric. They've either faced a team that is outright tanking, you know, the Wizards, the Nets, the Hornets, the Sixers, or they've faced a really good team, but without their best player. Without their best player. Because, of course, the Cavs didn't have Donovan Mitchell. The Blazers almost won that game, but they lost. They lost because they couldn't make enough clutch time plays down the stretch, and it was like, oh yeah, well, I mean, that's why Cleveland's so good. They can be missing Donovan Mitchell and still win a game like this and make all the right plays down the stretch. That's, you know, the Blazers are trying to work their way towards being one of those teams in the future, right? But they were just without Donovan Mitchell. That game, overtime, competitive, you could say that was a good loss. But when you're chasing a play-in and when you're 4 games behind entering today, good losses don't mean anything. because it's still a loss. Okay? And then the Blazers were handed, in my opinion, a golden opportunity going into today. All right? Dallas is extremely injured. Anthony Davis might not play again this year. That's the team the Blazers are chasing for 10th. Kyrie Irving tore his ACL. Right? So they are a train wreck, like super, super injured. Super, super injured. And right now they're down 28 to the Milwaukee Bucks. The Blazers, after they lose to the Bucks, the Blazers will still be 4 games back. But the Blazers have such a tough schedule, they're going to have to beat good teams. And the Blazers head into this game against the Celtics without Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, and Kristaps Porzingis. It was a great opportunity for the Blazers to pick up one of these really difficult wins against a team that was sitting a bunch of guys, a bunch of important parts. They were without 3 starters. This was a great opportunity to get a win against the Celtics. And then you let Pritchard drop 43 on you and you let Derek White drop 41. I know they hit some tough threes, but they also had some extremely easy threes. I thought the Blazers were a mess defensively today. And it's like, man, if they can't even keep it close against this Celtics team without Tatum, without Porzingis, without Holiday, how can we expect this team to beat enough good teams down the stretch to make up a 4-game deficit, right? It's like Dallas, I guess, has to lose every single game, which might happen because they're that injured, and then Phoenix has just as hard of a schedule. Actually, they have a harder schedule due to win percentage, right? And the Blazers, after this loss, are a game and a half behind them. So, you could still talk yourself into being convinced there's a chance. It's just like their schedule is so tough down the stretch, Eric. This is the type of game they have to win, and especially when you're given an opportunity to play this team not at full strength, without their best player, without their best defensive piece, and without their best big, and you're getting blown out in the second half. The Blazers were down as much by 20 as 25. They were down 25 in this game in the second half. They made it kind of close. Props to them because they finally started defending the 3-point line and finally started playing some freaking defense, but it was too late. It was too late. You let these guys go off against you. You let Derek White and Peyton Pritchard combine for 84 points. I think that's kind of pathetic, to be honest with you. And it was just a big missed opportunity for this team and very, very disappointing.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of people commenting fairly that they hit a lot of crazy threes, which is true, but the Celtics could also be saying Jabari Walker hit 6 of 6 threes. Yeah. So, those should balance each other out. If not, if you would have told me going into this game that Simons would have 30 and Jabari would hit all 6 of his 3-point shots, I would say we blew him out, right? So...
Well, I'll just say this to that, too. Would a top 8 defense give up 19 threes to Peyton Pritchard and Derek White?
No. And
yeah,
the problem is, here we are in the second half, come out the same defensive scheme, still dropping way too far off any screen.
Yep.
Still over-helping when we just need to let them, if they make a tough shot in the lane, a 2-point shot, you live with it.
Yep.
But they shoot so many threes, it just kills you. They made 7 more threes than us. That's 21 points just from the 3-point line, and you can't just let them do that. And I know it's hard because they're the best in the league at doing it, but you really need to find a way to stay home on the shooters. And I thought Portland just got really undisciplined in terms of leaving their guy open, not closing out properly, not forcing them off the line, stuff like that. And it felt like that was kind of the game plan, which is strange, playing a team like Boston who is just going to shoot a bunch of threes.
Yeah, we got a comment in chat. How does Bari hitting 6 even out 19 from 2 players? Nowhere did he say it's even. Number one. Okay, so you're just inventing stuff there. Number two, Jabari Walker was a 26% three-point shooter going into this game. I mean, listen, if we lost to this team and they had a 26% three-point shooter go 6 for 6, all the people that are saying they just made tough threes would be saying, man, their 26% three-point shooter went 6 for 6 from 3. At the end of the day, you got to defend the three-point line better, and this team came into this game seemingly ill-prepared to defend the three-point line. And yeah, that's what the Celtics do. You got to be prepared for it. You can't play off every screen and die off every screen and just let these guys walk into three-point shots, right? But that's the problem is they make 19 threes and there was like 5 insanely difficult threes and people are like, yeah, look at all those difficult threes they made. What can you do? What about the ones that were wide open? They missed some wide open threes. Pritchard hit 10 in the third quarter and then had a 3 off an inbound off a dead ball situation where nobody was within 20 feet of him. Like there was some awful defensive possessions in this game, but also you came out playing a scheme where, yeah, you're dropping the big. It didn't seem like Chauncey was prepared to try and take away what the Celtics do best or slow them down in terms of what they do best, which is make three-point shots. And especially going into this game where it's like you got 3 guys you really have to respect offensively, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard. I mean, a top 5 to 8 defense is not going to give up 19 threes. This is the first time in NBA history that 2 guys have hit at least 9 threes individually. That's never happened before in the NBA. Never, ever happened before. So you can't just sit here and say, yeah, they just made a bunch of tough threes. Like, you literally let them do something that has never happened before. So, yeah, props to them for hitting some difficult shots. That deep contested 3 Pritchard hit was really, really tough. But also, this whole entire game, man, they knew coming off a pick and roll, like, yeah, they're just going to be able to walk into a 3. And then, like, the rotations were super slow in this game. It felt like the energy defensively was slow in this game. But then also, a big problem I have, Eric, is, like, if you just don't get completely out-rebounded, you're in this game. You're in this game. The Blazers gave up 18 offensive rebounds, only got 8 of their own. And you lose by 10. You lose by 10. The Blazers shot 12 for 17 from the free throw line. The Celtics shot 15 for 17. Okay? The Blazers shot 50% from the field. The Celtics only shot 46%. The Blazers shot 40% from 3. The Celtics shot 42%. They just got more up. They made 7 more threes, right? They made 7 more threes. But also, part of the reason why they got up more threes is how many offensive rebounds you gave up. How many offensive rebounds you gave up, and they're playing without Porzingis. The biggest problem in this game, outside of how many threes you gave up to Pritchard and White, was you gave up 18 offensive rebounds. And it wasn't their bigs as much as it was their wings. Sam Hauser had an offensive rebound. Jaylen Brown had 3 offensive rebounds. Peyton Pritchard had 4 offensive rebounds. Not only did this dude drop a career-high 43 points on you and drop 10 threes in 3 quarters, you also give up 4 offensive rebounds to him. And it was to the point where it was like he was getting rebounds in traffic. The ball pursuit was just terrible on the glass. Jordan Walsh got 3 offensive rebounds. So Pritchard, Walsh, Brown, Hauser combined for 11 of their 18 offensive rebounds. And here's the thing. When you play against a team that plays 5 out like the Celtics do, you can't just rely on your bigs to rebound everything. Now, Jabari Walker played great. He really struggled on the defensive glass, in my opinion. But also, the guards had to do a better job rebounding in a game like this, because if you're out there having to guard Al Horford on the perimeter or play up at the point of a screen, which the Blazers needed to do, your big's going to be away from the rim, so your guards have to do a better job boxing out, being physical, and keeping guys off the glass. And the Blazers just did not do that. The Blazers just did not do that. Their wings, like, collectively, they failed rebounding the ball. You gave up 10 more offensive rebounds and you lost by 10. Like, you could have withstood some of the threes they were hitting, but also I thought the Blazers played better defense on their threes in the fourth quarter, and oh, look, they stopped hitting them. Peyton Pritchard didn't hit a 3 in the fourth quarter. You actually got out on his 3-point shot. Yeah, you give up a couple drives, but at least you didn't let him score 10 threes on you in the fourth quarter, you know? So there's a lot that went into this game. You can't just sit here and say, yeah, they just made tough threes and chalk the entire game up to that, because it's beyond just that. It's defensive rebounding. Also, there was some really bad defensive possessions defending the 3-point line, and they got shooters that'll make you pay. That's the whole point about the Blazers' tough schedule down the stretch, is if they aren't tightened up fully defensively, they're going to lose a bunch of games. Like, yeah, of course, a great team had some role players that made tough shots. Same thing happened with the Cavs. If you're just going to sit there and be like, man, they're just hitting shots, that's why we lose. Guess what? You're not even coming close to making a play because you got a bunch of teams like that. You got a bunch of teams that you're going to have to find a way to defend and beat. And if you can't do that, well, you're not good enough to get the freaking 10th seed. So at some point, it's like, you got to win games, you got to defend good teams, or the season is over.
Yeah. Even shorthanded, it's playing in Boston. It's a tough victory. So, I mean, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard have been doing this all year. And for people who, they average 3.5 and 3.2 threes a game, respectively. But that's with mostly their full team. So, like, you got to expect those numbers bump up a little bit when those guys are out and they have to take over more. So, it's not like, I mean, they both shoot, Derek White shoots almost 9 threes a game. Peyton Pritchard shoots, off the bench, shoots 7.7 a game.
A lot.
So you're talking like 16, 17 three-point attempts per game between the two of them. And they're going to chuck them up in a lineup that didn't have Tatum or Porzingis or Drew in it. So yeah, I mean, you can't just say they got lucky and made a bunch of threes. Derek White, I mean, they're on their way to the championship last year, made a ton of insanely difficult three-point shots. And we know Pritchard's propensity to hit tough step backs and buzzer beater shots and things like that. So it's not like those are guys who haven't ever shown that they could hit tough shots or anything. And like you said, Derek White had a couple of opportunities to get to 10 three-pointers made at the end. We left him wide open still at the end of the fourth quarter, and he was still letting them fly, and he just happened to miss a couple of wide open ones. Otherwise, he would have had 10 made as well. I felt like the defensive game plans have been a lot better lately, but this one in particular just felt a little off from the beginning, and it felt like the Blazers never really tried to adjust it at all.
Yep. You got to defend the three-point line better. It's just that, and you got to rebound better. Here's the thing. It's like we talk about identity all season long, and they've played really good defense the past couple of months. That has to translate to better teams. Like, if you're a really good defensive team against, 20 to 23 teams, but then you can't slow down a really good team, it doesn't really matter, man. Like, okay, cool, you're good at beating mediocre competition. You got to be able to beat a really good team that's missing their best player if you want to make up this deficit that the Blazers have put themselves in due to a bad first half of the season. They were like 14 and 28 or something? Yeah, they've won a lot of games since then, but it's like they're not beating the Celtics. They're not beating the Cavs. And we're still sitting there after a Cavs game like, yay, moral victory. We lost a game that we needed to win and almost won and had an 18-point lead in the second half, but like our expectations still aren't high enough to be unhappy about this. Yay, it's just a moral victory. Yay, you played close. Listen, I'm there with you with that Cavs game. Like, good game, moral victory, yes. But also part of the reason is because I don't expect this team to be able to play their way into the play-in. Because I don't expect them to be able to beat these types of teams. The Blazers have the Thunder up next. And it's like, after this game, after the Cavs game, they're going to go play the Thunder, and I would be absolutely floored. I would be absolutely shocked if they won that game. The Celtics have lost 18 games this year. They're 44 and 18. That's a really good record, but they've lost 18 times. They're not completely unbeatable. So, I don't know. Like, what? So you're going to go lose to the Thunder. The Thunder are really good. And then you come home, you got the Pistons. I mean, the Pistons have been playing really good. And then you go on the road and play the Warriors. And then you come home and play the Knicks. Like, so how many of these games are you going to be able to win then?
Tori, the schedule makers absolutely screwed us, too. We have to come back from a 7-game trip. We get 1 day at home. We play a tough Pistons team, and then have to get a plane that night and play a back-to-back on the road on Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
Like that's ridiculous scheduling, and so that just adds to the level of difficulty when you consider like any of those teams are good or are tough to beat on their own, let alone the last game of a 7-day trip. We know the game coming back with 1 day rest is always a tough one, always seems to give teams like Portland that have to travel a long distance a problem. And then to have to get back on a plane that night and go on a trip to a red hot Golden State team that just beat the Knicks in New York last night. I mean, that's just really tough. And now, so to your point, games like this, while on paper you probably could have chalked it up as an L no matter who was playing, just knowing this game was probably going to be a loss, but it's really tough to overcome that plus the schedule seemingly being against us. Now, after that, we do have, I believe, like 7 games in a row at home, so it's mostly against tough teams, but at least we're going to have a lot of home games, and they've played well at home. But this is a situation where, unfortunately, we can't play the moral victory card too many times the rest of the season. We have to actually win some of these games, and hopefully they can go on a run, because at this point, I mean, there's no reason not to at least make a run at it if you've come this far, right? So they still have to feel like they have a chance, I guess, but it's not a guarantee that the teams in front of us are just going to fall off. Unfortunately, Phoenix last night comes back from down 23 late in the third quarter, overcome their largest fourth quarter deficit in team history to beat the Clippers. And so we're not getting any favors right now. We got outside of the injuries to Dallas, but it's going to take passing more than just Dallas, even if we do pass them. So
there's a couple comments I want to respond to. HJ Angel says, like, come on, Clingan, all they're doing is shooting threes, and you can't even contest because you're so far in your drop coverage. If it was DA, Chauncey plays DA the same way. Like, it's not a Clingan issue. Clingan is actually better at closing out on those. He blocked one of those today. He's actually better at, like, getting all the way out and bothering the three or blocking the three than DA is. I mean, how often do we complain about deep drop? Super duper drop scheme is a joke we've made before with the way Chauncey plays DA. Like, it's just the way the Blazers play their bigs, and against a team like this, they'll make you pay. And then Marv said, do you guys see Horford moving over and over on screens? Yeah, they had some questionable screens, but also, like, if you really try and fight through a screen and they're moving, you're much more likely to get an offensive foul called than if you just kind of, like, willingly die on the screen. Because if you willingly die on the screen, it looks like, oh, it's not a good screen. If you're fighting over and the dude's stepping into you and chucking you and you're getting, and you maybe sell a little bit, but you're trying to fight through, it's a lot more obvious. That's why Tamani gets those calls that other guys don't. That's why Tamani draws a ton of offensive fouls on moving screen calls, because he tries fighting over the top the right way. And a lot of these Blazer guys turn and, like, meet the screen chest to chest. That's not how you get through a screen. If you meet a screen chest to chest and he's moving, it's like, all right, you guys are chest to chest. It doesn't look the same as if I'm going to try and slide over the top and I'm getting stepped through my back. Like, it's completely different. So I thought the Blazers did a really poor job today fighting through some of those screens. I think they needed to do a better job of really trying to compete through those screens. And then if they're really moving to mess you up, like, it's going to be a little bit more obvious, and try and sell it a little bit. It just felt like the Blazers kind of willingly died on screens, especially Shaedon Sharpe a couple of times really stood out to me in that regard. So, I think, sure, there was some stuff that should have been called, but also I think you got to fight through screens better to get more of those calls.
And at one point, do people realize that that's not the game plan to fight through screens? It's to dial them and switch or whatever.
Yeah.
And if it's with the big, it's drop. And that's not on Clingan. So I mentioned that you gotta adjust and run him off the 3-point line, and set, like, if you switch and have Clingan playing up more, he's gonna get cooked on the drive, but at least you're not giving up wide open threes. So like you have to pick your poison kind of. And we chose to let them shoot a bunch of 3-point shots in this game, and that's exactly what they want to do, playing the way they do with the lineup, especially they had tonight. So yeah, I mean, it's a little concerning because Clingan didn't have a good matchup outside of maybe what Cueto was playing, but like what's he supposed to do when they're playing a 5-out? Like they don't have anyone inside. If we're running drop against that, it's going to look terrible on whatever. Like you could have prime Hakeem Olajuwon back there, Bill Russell. It's going to look terrible if you're telling them to drop in those schemes. So, it doesn't matter who it was in this game.
But that's the problem, man, is like Clingan's put in a position where he's going to struggle. He got some really good contests on a couple of threes anyway, about as good of a contest as you could expect any center to get, dropping that far off these screens, which was clearly the game plan, because Chauncey does it all the time against teams like this, and it cooks us, right? But, because he didn't block those shots, because of the scheme they're running, we got people in chat saying, like, see, this is why I only view him as a second-string center long-term. Just coming to conclusions about a rookie not being put in the best position, the best scheme. You can play Clingan a little bit higher. He's so lengthy that he can block threes and still be far enough away where he can stay with a guy trying to drive and bother him at the rim. Clingan has been a very impactful defender this year, and it's backed up statistically, and he's a rookie, and yet because of a game like this, against a team like this, when Chauncey's running super-duper drop scheme with them, it's time to come to conclusions about the rookie not being a starting caliber player ever. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff annoys me. That stuff bothers me. Like, have a little bit of patience. Also recognize that Chauncey does this all the time. Even the Blazers' mobile big man in Ayton, it would have looked even worse. Like, how many times do we see Ayton drop super far off where he doesn't even get a hand up or even try and close out, and he's just completely dropped off screens? And one of the reasons why Blazer fans wanted Ayton in the past was because, he's supposed to be a mobile big man. He's supposed to be able to play up at the level of a screen. He's supposed to be able to hedge, switch, recover, this, that. And Chauncey still runs him in drop scheme and has him set up below the level of the screen. So I don't really understand why people are trying to make long-lasting conclusions about Donovan Clingan from a game like this.
Yeah, and there's little things to look at. Like, is the guard trying to fight through? Because if you're running drop, the whole point is that the guard is supposed to chase over the top and force the guy off the three-point line from behind and force him to shoot that mid-range long two. So if we're dying on the screen and just auto-switching plus running drop, that's going to leave a shooter wide open. And if he drives in the paint and then we overhelp because we got like a guard on a big, then he's going to kick out to that guy's man and hit a three. So it's really simple concepts on offense. It's just, I think our defense it's not good for teams like this that shoot a lot of threes. There was a game we won against Phoenix in that 10 out of 11 stretch where we gave up a ton of open threes. They ran a similar offense, and they just missed like almost all of them, and they were ice cold from three, but we gave up a ton of open ones. And it was kind of similar to this game, only Boston was hitting all of them and making us pay like the whole game.
Yeah. Comment says Torrey needs a shot. He's sounding very annoyed. Love you guys. I am annoyed. I'm annoyed at this game, yes. I am annoyed at this game. Because we're sitting here talking about playing, and everybody wants to go for a play, and the Blazers already ruined the tank. It's like, all right, fine, let's go for the play. And every time I root for this team and start to have a little bit of hope at them being able to make a play, and it's like they lose. They lose. Yeah, that's frustrating. And then to do it, giving up 84 points to two guys that aren't even stars, like, is crazy. You give up career highs to both these guys. I think, like, combined, the most combined threes by a duo ever, maybe? I saw a tweet about that. Like, first time you've ever gave up 9 threes to two different guys in a game. And it's like, yeah, of course I'm going to be annoyed. Of course I'm going to be annoyed, man. Like, I'm finally to the point where it's like, all right, let's go for the play-in. Dallas is super beat up. Phoenix has the toughest schedule for the rest of the season and is struggling. And you got a depleted Celtics team. Like, all right, let's go win this game. Let's go win this game. And then just to see them just get dog-walked by Peyton Pritchard again. This isn't the first time they've got dog-walked by Peyton Pritchard. Remember when the Celtics scored like 145 a couple years ago and Peyton Pritchard in garbage time was destroying us? Like, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't I don't know what it is. Pritchard has a point to prove or something against his hometown team, man. But against us, that dude, well, I can't say us, Eric. I can't say us. Against the Blazers, all right? I'm not going to include myself in that, all right? Against the Blazers, for whatever reason, man, that dude has some of his best games.
Yeah, and I mean, the Celtics only made 22 shots inside the arc, only had 36 points in the paint. Like, it's not... So this is what, like, I see a lot of people argue about Clingan. Of course, your rim protecting center is not going to have a good matchup when the other team is barely shooting any 2-point shots, and when they are, it's like when they're isolated on a smaller guard or something. Like, it's just it's like, I don't know, it's not excusing Clingan for having a bad game or whatever, but like, come on, guys, like, his strengths were not going to be shown in this game.
Well, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to force guys downhill at him. You're supposed to get over the screen, lock in trail, and make the guy uncomfortable if he's going to try and pull up because you're right behind him to bother that shot. And then you force him downhill towards your rim protecting big man, right? But like, the Blazers really struggled getting through screens in this game and didn't do a good enough job fighting over screens. So yeah, they're wide open coming off of screens. Like, if you're going to run drop with your big dropped that far back, the guard's got to do a better job getting through the screen, locking and trailing, and forcing that guy downhill with that dropping big man. The Blazers didn't do that in this game. They did not do that at all. All right? And it should have gotten to the point where Chauncey adjusted, like, man, our guards are not getting through screens, so we can't keep dropping the big because they're walking off screens for open threes, whether it was on or off the ball, right? And he should have adjusted to, like, all right, we're going to defend the level of the screen and make these guys beat us with twos, right? But it's like every time the Blazers had to help, they were a step slow in their rotation, so they're giving up open threes that way. But it's like, at least adjust. The guards got to do a better job fighting over the top and forcing downhill to Clingan. If a guard dies on the screen and they're running drop scheme with Clingan 10 feet off the screen and they make a three, it's wrong to sit there and say that's Clingan's fault. Because it's not. It's the scheme, and the guards, the guys getting screened, are not executing their part of the scheme, which is to fight over the top, lock and trail, and force them downhill. So that's the problem, is everybody sees like Clingan trying to last gasp, close out, and block a three, and he can get kind of close sometimes, but they make it, and it's like, man, look how slow he is getting out of there. Look how much he's having to drop. Like, and nobody's talking about, man, the guard died on that screen, didn't force the guy downhill at Clingan. That's the thing. It's like you're blaming a symptom, you're not blaming the problem in terms of why the scheme is breaking down.
I don't even think we're trying to fight through them. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
I think the guards are told to not fight through the switch onto the.
See it like. It almost looks like that from a lot of guys, but then I see the way Tamani will fight through a lot of screens, and it's like, yeah, there you go. That's good job fighting through that screen. That's exactly how you do it. I think like Sharp's screen navigation is poor. It's not good. He has some legitimate problems there. In a game like this, it was not just Sharp, it was a lot of guys. It's just Sharp kind of really stands out to me sometimes, the way he faces the screen and just kind of like runs face first into the screen sometimes. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, he had a couple good plays on defense. Took a charge, had a nice steal, but the screens
there's some technique things there, like, that need to be cleaned up, right? I think his effort today was good defensively, right? And that's been something that's been called out, right? So it's like, listen, the first thing you can control is your effort. His effort was better defensively today. All right, cool. He controlled his effort. He gave good effort. He took a charge, for crying out loud. Got a steal, like, made some plays. All right, good. the more long-term thing beyond just the effort you can decide at any point to play hard defensively, right? That's kind of just a choice that he needs to make more often to actually compete defensively. The technique stuff is more long-term, right? Where you have to get used to defending screens a certain way. You have to get used to fighting through screens. You have to know how to fight through screens. And that's something that a lot of guys have struggled with under Chauncey. Like, Tamani doesn't struggle with it. He's good, but we brought in Grant. He's terrible with it, but he was terrible beforehand, right? Sharp struggles with it. We've seen Ant at least have, like, the right technique. He just doesn't have the defensive tools. With Sharp, it's not a problem with his defensive tools. It's a problem with his technique trying to fight through screens, man. And it's something that hopefully he can learn. That's where you can sit here and say he's 21. He's still very young. That's a technique thing. He can learn defensively, and he'll be a better defender for it. If you say that, I'll agree with you. Yeah, that's something that he can learn long term. It's not the end of the world that he struggles getting through screens right now. I would just like to see some progress, and I hope that whoever's coaching him can figure out how to teach him how to fight through screens, because I do not want to be sitting here, with another Jeremy Grant in terms of a player that's athletically gifted and should be able to fight through screens and can't just because he turns and runs face first into screens.
Yeah, I still think it's obviously certain players are worse than others, but it's definitely an issue when it happens like multiple times every game though. Like, I wonder why it hasn't improved under Chauncey at all. Like, because this is stuff we talked about early in Chauncey's tenure of them not doing a good job of. It just hasn't seemed to. You would think with a scrappy team that was trying to claw their way into the plan right now, they'd be just like trying, like, just overly trying to get through screens, maybe even getting some fouls called because they're trying to bust through screens and stuff, which is okay sometimes. They're playing physical, but like, I don't know, it just seems like we just give up on screens way too often.
I think there's times where guys have done a better job fighting through screens, but also what I think this team has really gotten better at defensively is the rotations and helping properly. And even during that run where they were 10-1 in 11 games, a lot of those games they were really good defensively, not because they were necessarily great fighting through screens, but because like teams weren't the best shooting teams, right? Didn't make a lot of threes. And so they get downhill, and you got Clingan waiting there. They had Robert Williams at times for that. And, Kamara, Grant can make an impact, help side around the rim. So what happens when you're able to penetrate, you collapse the defense, you create some rotations. I thought the Blazers for the past couple of months have been doing a pretty dang good job rotating out of those situations. But the problem is when you play the best teams that really know how to shoot and really know how to stretch you out, really know how to play, it doesn't matter that they're missing 3 starters. You get caught in rotation against Peyton Pritchard and Derek White. Oh, look, you're not rotating fast enough, right? And if you die on screens against a team that can play 5 out, oh, these guys are just walking off into threes, man. And I thought the screen navigation was worse in this game, and also this is the type of team to exploit the type of defensive weaknesses the Blazers still have despite being better defensively the past couple of months. And it's like, oh, no surprise. They hit a bunch of threes. They hit a bunch of shots. They score 128, even though they were missing 3 of their starters.
Yep. Agree with what you said. I'd like to see people like get mad because it seems like it's always the guy guarding, Simon's guarding, or Scoot's guarding. Like they come up to set the screen, and then we just auto switch, and then it's like someone's trying to guard Jaylen Brown that shouldn't, and then then we don't get through the screen, and like White or Pritchard's open. It just, to me, it just seems like we do such a poor job of letting the team we're playing kind of dictate how we're going to play defense, and it should be the other way around. Good defenses force you to play a way you're not comfortable with, and it feels like we just let teams get comfortable with whatever their scheme is when it schemes like this. Now, the defense works against some other schemes because it's designed to work that way, but like against teams like this, which are most of the good teams that you're going to play, We'll see this on Friday too.
Yeah.
Like you can't necessarily just play this way and hope the other team misses shots or whatever, or doesn't take advantage of mismatches, because that's all those good teams do is hunt mismatches. That's what the playoffs or the play-in or whatever we're aspiring to. That's all it's going to be is mismatch hunting, and you have to be able to adjust and find a way to counteract that and still make them uncomfortable, especially a team that shoots a lot of threes. And I just think when you play this like drop coverage auto switch stuff, it just leads to other teams getting way too comfortable from threes, and that's why you see a career high from both Pritchard and White.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Yeah, they dictate things,
Yeah.
right? These good offenses, they dictate things. I think the Blazers have gotten better with their reactionary defense, but their defense is still too reactionary. Where it's like, we're just going to go into this game and we're just going to do what we do. And, oh, they're making a bunch of threes. All right, Clingan has to run out harder, I guess. You know, it's not like, all right, we're going up against a team playing, that makes a lot of threes that play 5 out. Here's what we're going to do defensively to try and take away what they do or counteract what they do well, right? There's just a lack of game planning, I feel like, under Chauncey Billups for some of these teams. That is why I'm still not sitting here saying, like, yeah, he deserves to come back next year because of how much growth they've shown. Because it's still situational stuff. And we talk about with, like, late game situations or out of bounds plays, X's and O's. But there's, like, a lot of situational things, rotations, lineups. There's a lot of situational things that are lacking coaching-wise, where if you want to be a really good team, you got to be able to come out in a game like this and have a plan for how you're not going to let Peyton Pritchard drop 43 freaking points on you. And if you come out with the wrong plan, okay, fine. Find a way to fix it. And there's just been a lack of that with Chauncey Billups. There's just been a lack of it. So you got to find a way to not let guys walk into threes, not give up so many threes. I know this is what they do, but it's not like you were having to double Tatum and they were swinging the ball and getting open threes. It's not like you were struggling with, Clingan having to help around the rim, so they're kicking it out to Porzingis for 3. You weren't having to struggle with that. They started Luke Cornett at center and played Neemias Queta off the bench. Those guys don't shoot. They started Al Horford at the 4. He played a little bit of 5, but should not have struggled like this. Anyway,
if we look ahead to like the play-in matchups, we won't have to play a team as good as Boston, but let's just say we happen to get there. Not having that extra shooter, that's why we talk so much about needing that this offseason, because like we haven't even mentioned Sam Hauser in this game, but like just having him as someone you have to guard and can't leave.
We didn't even really do that though. We gave him a lot of open.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is like they have 5 guys that can all shoot in the lineup at once. So like it's hard to like pick and choose who you're going to guard sometimes. That's why I feel like against a team like Boston, you just have to play everyone straight up and switch everything. And if they happen to drive and score, you live with them making twos. But when they get insanely hot from 3, you don't stand a chance. And we far too often traded 2s for 3s in this game, and it's not going to work out well for us in that situation.
This is also,
especially we're not getting rebounds either.
Yeah. This is also why, like, if the Blazers are drafting 10th, 11th, for as much as I joke about it, I am actually fine with them taking Knipple there. Because he gives you that shooter that can also, like, make a play potentially, and I don't know. I think he could maybe be, like, okay defensively, right? If you're getting a 3-point specialist, though, that can put the ball on the floor a little bit and make a play, you're not expecting them to be the best defender. The Blazers need a balance, right? You just hope that they're a solid team defender, right? Like, because you don't need a guy like Knipple if you draft him. You don't need him to guard the best player on the opposing team. That's what you have Tamani for, right? That's what you have Denny for. If you trade Ant and get a good third-string guard that's a good point-of-attack defender, you got them as well, right? You just need the rest of the team to be solid where you're not having all these breakdowns, right? So if you get a 3-point specialist, a shooter, you just want them to be a solid team defender because that's where they're going to be used the most, right? And you just hope that they're not making a bunch of mistakes. So if a guy like that's available at 11, I am cool with taking Con Knipple. I am cool with taking Liam McNeely, somebody big enough to play the 3 that can shoot the ball. Because, yeah, watching some of these guys make these threes is just like, man, Anthony Simons is the only guy that I trust to be able to shoot at the level that, like, Peyton Pritchard and Derek White were shooting at today. And that's kind of a problem.
Yeah. Definitely need that. Then, we had times where Tamani, who has been very good shooting the 3 lately, hesitated to shoot it. But thankfully we had sniper Jabari Walker tonight. What do you think of his unbelievable performance tonight?
They were daring him to shoot. And he made all 6 of his threes, which is good. He had a 3-for-3 game from 3 earlier this year, right? Really, really good performance, man. Really, really good performance. I mean, I wish he was a better shooter overall so the teams wouldn't dare him to beat them. But, like, tonight he kept us in the game because Boston's game plan, and I can't fault them for it. Jabari Walker was shooting 26% from 3 going into this game. So Boston's game plan is... 35%. Wow. Now he's a 35%er. Listen, that's good, man. The thing is he hasn't gotten enough opportunity to even know what he is as a 3-point shooter because he's in 2 games he's gone 9 for 9, and outside of that he's probably under 20% or something like that. You're at 20%. That's why small sample sizes are funky, right? Made all 6 of your threes. Great performance. If he can shoot the 3 ball and slim up a little bit, I like him at the 4. I don't like him at the small ball 5. I know he's had some good moments as the small ball 5. I just don't think defensively it's a good idea at all. The thing is like, if you're going to play him as a small ball 5, he has to be able to bring the big out of the paint and provide you an advantage there. And in this game, he was 6 for 6 from 3, but it wasn't like he was bringing the big out of the paint. They were daring him to shoot. He came through, so props to him. Hell of a game. Best shooting game of his career. Just if that shot's real, I think maybe you can get away with a little bit more small ball 5 if he can actually bring the big out of the paint. Because defensively, there's going to be some rough moments, and he competes on the boards, and he's a good rebounder for his size. He's just so undersized at the 5 that he struggles to rebound at times against some bigger lineups. But also, if he can shoot and slim up a little bit, I'm just fine with him at the 4. So the key there is the shot. The 6 for 6 was really fun to see, man, because if he can shoot a decent 3 ball, I think he'll stick in the league and be maybe a 10th or 11th man, maybe a 9th man. I don't know. I don't know what his ceiling is if he's making threes. But if he can make threes, he can stick for sure because he does a lot of little things well. So, it was good to see him make some threes, and hopefully it's a sign of him figuring things out from behind the arc.
Yeah, so I was prepared to do a Brant breakdown this game, and you might be able to guess once I start talking about what play it was.
Yeah.
There was a play, I think it was Reith caught it in the short roll, and Jabari stayed in the corner, and Jabari he would have a wide open dunk if he cut.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? Like, a player like Jabari should never just camp at the 3-point line. He's not a good shooter. Like, there's no reason for him not to make that cut there. And then he proceeded to make like 2 threes in a row right after that, and I was like, oh crap, I can't call him out for not shooting. Like, and then he hit 6 for 6.
Yeah,
I can't bring up this play now, right? Because they threw it. Reith threw it to him and he fumbled it and it went out of bounds. They turned it over, So I was all prepared to show you why Jabari can't just camp out of the 3-point line, and he was like, Eric, shut up. Here's 6 threes in a row, like, to ruin your Brant breakdown. Returned to the postgame show. Yep. So
it's always funny how that happens, man. It's always funny because there's times where like somebody's playing really bad and I'll finally tweet about him like, this dude's driving me crazy. He's playing bad, and then he'll have like 5 points in a row, and people will be like, you just hating on him. Like, nah, man, he was playing really bad, and I brought it up, and then he started playing good. I guess I jinxed him. It's always funny how that happens. So, yeah, I mean,
You could have jinxed Scoot tonight.
I don't know what was up with Scoot tonight, man. He had some good scoring moments, but it's almost like he's. Do you almost feel like he's regressing a little bit on the ball
Yeah,
compared to like earlier in the season? But also like he's being utilized a lot more off the ball, that maybe he's just like struggling to maintain a rhythm on the ball. Does that make sense?
yeah, maybe, or maybe he's just become better off ball. I don't know. It's weird to say, but
Yeah, I don't know. He has some really good on the ball moments earlier this year, but I think just like coupled with him coming off the bench and then coming into the game and just kind of being off the ball, it's like he struggles to build a rhythm with the ball in his hands, and then he'll try and make some plays and like look a little sloppy lately, and it's like I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what the problem is.
I do have a question for you in chat though.
Yeah.
Why the heck would you have someone who has had issues at times being a little over aggressive on defense and picking up cheap fouls? Why would you keep them in the game for multiple minutes with your third foul, just begging for him to get a fourth foul? Like, I felt like they just left him out there to get a foul so they didn't have to play him.
No, it was stupid. So
like, why would you do that? Like, I mean, I know he wasn't playing well, but like, like, why would you do that? Like, it makes no sense.
No, not at all. I actually thought about this, which I'm glad you brought it up because I wanted to make a point of this. So the play he got his fourth foul on, you remember it, right?
Yeah,
he gives up an offensive rebound to Peyton Pritchard and then fouls him on the putback. I think the only reason he gave up that offensive rebound was because he was trying not to be physical on the box out. Because he already had 3 fouls. Like he's been decent at boxing out, or at least being like physical enough with guards on the boards to not give up a bunch of offensive rebounds lately. And that board was just like, it was almost like he didn't want to touch him because he had 3 fouls early in the game. And it was like, okay, Peyton Pritchard gets the board, so then he tries to like half-heartedly block it and picks up his 4th foul. And it's like, yeah, why was he in the game? The reason why you sub guys out of the game when they have foul trouble in the first half is because they can't play normal defense or normal basketball on the boards because they're trying so hard not to pick up their 4th foul. They become a little bit of a liability. And that's the only reason I think Pritchard got that board, and then Scoot fouls him and it's an and one. And then now he has 4. It's like, why was he even in the game in the first place? And then you have like Scoot late pick up his 5th foul on a foul to give at the end of the 3rd quarter. And it's like, was he being instructed to?
I'm pretty sure they said to use the foul to give or whatever. And then
who instructed him with 4 fouls to give a foul to give with 4 seconds left at the end of the 3rd? Like, this is just stupid. It made no sense.
But yeah, when they kept him in the game when he got his 3rd foul, I was like, what are you doing? Because like, we know this is not a knock on him at all. Like, he's improved a ton defensively this year, obviously. But he does have a knack of being just like he'll do something that's just a little too aggressive and he'll get called for a cheap foul, and he's been doing that a lot. And you have to, players like that you can't trust. Like you can't, like, Tamani gets his 3rd foul. It's like, do you keep him in? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I trust him not to pick up a foul, but I also don't want him to not play full Tamani speed either. So maybe you take him out. Someone like Clingan, maybe you you say, hey, I want you to try to play the next 10 minutes without picking up a foul or something. Like, I understand that, but like, I just feel like in that situation, it just was the wrong time to try and let him not pick up another foul, because you could just tell something like that was going to happen. He was going to pick up his 4th, and then they all of a sudden have a convenient excuse not to have to play him very much,
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that coupled with him fouling, giving a foul to give at the end of the 3rd to pick up his 5th was just very weird. I didn't understand it, so yeah, fully agree. And chat, let us know what you think, of course. We're going to start responding to chat comments here in a second. Let's touch upon a couple individual players, Eric. I'll let you pick who you want to talk about here.
We haven't really talked about Anthony much. Do you have anything to say about his game, or is it just another Anthony performance like you said last game?
Yeah, I mean, he hit a few little like across the key weird little scoop shots, hook shots, right? And that's kind of his shot. And that's a tough shot, man. The left hand against Horford across the paint, tough, man. Tough. And when I watch him, I'm like, I hope he can teach Scoot a couple of these little scoop shots, because I feel like Scoot could kill off some of them. You know what I mean? Like, Scoot just needs to get a little bit more creative as a scorer, a little bit more creative with his bag. And, like, Anthony Simons is has a knack for a lot of these little hook shots in the paint, these little scoop shots that are really hard to guard, even if you're big going against him, right? It's a big killer type of shot. And it's nice to see him playing well. 30 points for Ant. It felt like a little quiet 30-point performance, 6 assists, no turnovers. Yeah, that's why I felt quiet, because he's trying to will him back in the game. 6 assists, no turnovers. Was nice to see. I thought at the end they got a little ISO happy with him, and then one possession was Scoot, where everybody's standing around watching Ant or Scoot dribble the air out of the ball and like trying to make a shot. And I was a little discouraged as to how they got so ISO heavy at the end of that game, because it felt like, man, you're coming back. You got to play quick. You can't just pound the air out of the ball and try to go one-on-one. But like,
I mean, we had a chance when he got that flagrant foul called.
Yeah.
We had a 3 to cut it to 5. If that goes down, maybe we play different. But
he might have gotten fouled on that 3. That was also a tough look, but I fully get, Ant taking that shot 100%. You're down 8, you gotta get quick points.
But then we're down 10 again, and then I don't know. Anything that happened after that, I felt like the game was pretty much over.
Yeah. I mean, offensively, really good game from him. Defensively, like, he can't guard shooting guards at all. Like, you can't switch him on to Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's just going to bury him in the paint and score over him. Even though Jaylen Brown plays a lot of shooting guard, right? But even against some guards his size, man, he needs to be a little bit more physical defensively. I feel like in terms of moving his feet, fighting through screens sometimes, he's actually not that bad. It's just how much ground he gives up on drives and how he'll just let guys bury him in the paint and shoot over him. Is just like his biggest issue defensively. And it's going to be tough for him. Like, I don't expect him to be able to stop Jaylen Brown. He's just, like I said, the physical tools with Ant is the biggest problem defensively. But there's just sometimes where there's guards his size that drive at him, and I feel like he's moving his feet differently. He's just, like, not actually walling off or cutting them off when he maybe could. And it's almost like he's just trying not to foul too much defensively. Like, he needs to try and be a little bit more physical at times, but I don't know if he knows how to.
Yeah, he's one of the best on the team at keeping a guy in front of him, but he still gets walked down. Yeah. So I don't think he'll ever put on enough strength to be able to not do that. So just gonna have to live with that as long as he's on the team. But he can hit the weights all he wants. I just don't think he's gonna put on enough weight to be like Scoot or Denny level strong, where you're not getting pushed around. So
I think it's part strength, part size, length, but part also just technique, where I don't know, like Keon Ellis is not that big and is very skinny, but he plays terrific defense, right? But he like moves really, really well. But also it's like, if you can slide fast enough to be a guy at a spot, you have to cut him off. You don't want to just, that lead foot that you're sliding with, the foot that they're driving at, you don't just want to drop that backwards while you slide, because you're just opening up the door. And I feel like if somebody tries to drive this way, a lot of his defense, instead of trying to slide and keep his chest in front of the guy, a lot of it, man, he just kind of turns and opens up the door, stays with the guy. But if you open up the door like this and a guy's able to get his shoulder into you, and then you've lost the leverage battle, especially if you're not super strong. some guys can make up for it that have length, that have strength, but like Ant, the only way he can be competitive defensively is if he cuts guys off on the perimeter. The second he opens the door, then guys just walk him right down to the rim, and that's the biggest issue. So, that's a technique problem that makes his physical limitations worse because of the way he'll just kind of open up the door a little bit and let guys get a shoulder past him, where it's like, man, just try and slide and stay in front. If you want to, drop that lead foot and try and back up a little bit as a guy drives at you, at some point you got to try and slide and square up with your chest and take the contact to the chest before you get walked down to the rim. But his problem is just open up that door.
Like they would do in the post.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's the problem. He just opens up the door and never actually seems to try and get back in front because it's just like he's not trying to be physical. It seems like he's not trying to foul, so he just kind of lets it happen and he gets walked to the rim. So,
well, yeah, maybe. I mean, it's hard to teach this, but if you beat someone to the spot and take the contact and take charges like Tamani does, maybe that's a solution. I don't know. He took a elbow to the face from Jaylen Brown on one play, but the rest didn't call it. But that
was just a pure post up. He's not going to be able to do anything there.
Right. In a game like this, though, would you have rather had Jaylen Brown shoot 40 times and just keep letting him go one-on-one
yes.
with Ant?
Yes.
Maybe that would have been a better solution, right? I don't know. If we weren't going to guard the 3-point line.
He shot some mid-range that looked terrible. I'll take that all day over 19 threes from White and Pritchard, man.
Oh. But that's why I think sometimes it's not necessarily I mean, that's our game plan is to have Ant switch onto those guys. So it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, our game plan is just kind of dumb.
Yeah,
it's a problem. It's a problem. But good offensive game, man. I mean, that's the thing is we know what Ant is defensively. There's your best explanation of what Ant struggles with defensively, in my opinion. There's the best explanation I can give you. Even gave you a visualization. All right. Because this chair swivels, so I can give you a visualization. But whether he has a good game or a bad game is mostly predicated upon his offense. You got defensive pieces around. You need him to be able to make shots and hit shots. Him hitting shots and Jabari Walker hitting shots is the only reason the Blazers even had any hope at the end of this game. It's the only reason it wasn't a 30-point loss. So.
Yep. Nate Bjork in the chat said, just so everyone knows, I'm obviously not Nate. Yeah, thanks, Captain.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
Captain Obvious.
Disappointed, man.
Yeah, we all thought Nate Bjorkgren was, going to the airport, watching Blazers Uprise, chatting in chat about how much better he is than Chauncey.
Yeah.
That'd be really funny, though.
That would be funny. That would be hilarious. That'd be legendary. We haven't talked much about Sharp. What were your thoughts?
What did he finish at from the field?
I don't remember. You told me.
All right, he was 11 for 18. Yeah, I thought he was aggressive at times.
What was he from 3?
3 of 7.
Decent 3-point shooting night, which is good.
His 3-point shooting, a 3-pointer made streak in every game continues.
Yep.
Was a +6. He was not in that stretch where the Blazers completely lost control of this game in the second quarter.
And when Scoot had his foul trouble.
Yeah.
Why? What? I just don't understand, man.
Yeah, but he ends up playing 40 minutes anyway.
How much did he play in the second? Yeah, I guess.
He played a ton in the second half, yeah, because Scoot didn't play as much.
Yeah.
So...
Just felt like he sat for a while there in the second quarter, but maybe it was normal.
Yeah. He had 6 rebounds, no turnovers. I thought he competed on defense. I thought it was a really good game from Sharp. Nothing really frustrated me from his performance, some
outside of the screen navigation.
Right. I
Yeah,
am, but like I said,
little thing.
it's hard. It's hard for me to blame individual players on that too until it's like not a team problem, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not an everybody problem. Like Denny, or I think Denny's okay, and Tamani is good, so those guys can. Like
Yeah.
some of these other guys need to get better there. But yeah, no, offensively, good game from him. Nice to see him go 3 for 7 from three because he just had a
Tre-
lot of inefficient 3-point shooting nights this season.
Trevin says Sharp played 9:41 in the second quarter. That's crazy.
I guess he was in the game
and
and invisible, man. You know, we talk about how sometimes Sharp is just invisible out there and not making much of an impact. It felt like he played less in the second quarter. Maybe it's just because when Scoot was in his foul trouble, that's when Sharp was sitting. And that's when it was like, man, Scoot's in foul trouble. Where's Sharp? Sub in Sharp. Like, get Scoot out of the game is probably why. Part of the reason why it seemed like he played less there in that second quarter. But, yeah, I mean, he played 40 minutes, so no complaints there. At that point, like, you just go to at that point, you just go to Banton or someone. You just figure it out because Scoot in foul trouble is not going to be particularly impactful. And you want to try and save those fouls for the second half so we can make more of an impact and make some plays, defensive plays, offensive plays. That wasn't
well,
the case.
we did go to Banton in the second half for some reason, and he proceeded on a couple straight plays to walk back on defense and not get back. And
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Banton is a legitimately bad NBA player. Okay, I think there's people in this fan base that overrate him. Like, I saw a comment at the start of the stream that I wasn't going to comment on, but basically, like, a comment hyping up Banton or something. And, dude, his defense is legitimately terrible. His defense is really, really bad. His playmaking for others is only out of, like, necessity most of the time, where it's like, oh, it's either an obvious pass or he can't score. He's a shot chucker that can sometimes get hot and look really good when he gets hot. But on the season, he's been, on average, inefficient. He has like a 52 true shooting, right? And that's with a super hot streak to start the season where some Blazer fans were calling him untouchable. So, I like, after the season, man, I'd be completely down to just straight up waive him. Like, I don't.
I think he's a free agent. We have to pay him.
Yeah, true. I mean, like, I'm not paying him more than a minimum. If the Blazers go out and pay him $10 million, they're completely stupid. Like, I would rather pay Thibault $11 million than Banton.
Yeah. Yeah. See, this is the ultimate example, Banton, of he's a tall guard, so he must be good on defense, right? Like, I thought so many people think because he's got length that he's good at defense. We always talk about this, but like, people just assume because he's big for the position he plays. But I mean, it's not even his fault. Like, we played. I think we had the 4-guard lineup in there when he came in. They were trying everything, or we had 3 guards and Jabari and Duop or something, like it was something weird like that. Or it was Chris. We had Chris. At one point, we had Chris, Jabari, and Duop in at the same time, and then the second half it was Chris and Jabari with Banton, Simons, and Sharp. Like, it's just weird lineups, man.
Yeah, but Jabari was a sniper tonight, so
Yeah.
it was fine somehow. But yeah, it's strange. Like, Chris tonight, I thought was brutal. Like, didn't have an impact defensively. Bricked. Like, how many threes did he shoot? Was it just one that stands out in my mind? Yeah, he only shot 1 3, but it was like in the middle of Jabari making all these threes, and you know how we compare their 3-point shooting? In the middle of Jabari going 6 for 6 from 3, Chris Murray gets an absolutely wide open corner 3 and just bricks it, man. Just bricks it. I have no confidence in Chris Murray, even if he's wide open, to make a 3, and it's a legitimate problem. And it's people talk about, oh, defensive impact, little things. I think the past couple of games, recently, his defense has kind of fallen off a bit, and I don't think he's like. I think tonight he was pretty bad, and you look at. I mean, it's just individual plus minus from one game, so take it with a huge grain of salt, but in 15 minutes, he was a minus 17.
Yeah, not a great game from him. He needs one of those 6 for 6 3-pointer games like Jabari to get his 3-point shot up.
The thing is like, who's. I mean, of course, now we're going to say Jabari in hindsight, but like going in is like, who's more capable of a 6 for 6 3-point shooting night? I probably would have said Jabari. Like, both guys shooting 26% going into this game, but we've seen a game where Jabari's gone 3 for 3. Like, Jabari can get hot.
I would have said no chance either one ever shoots 6 for 6 from 3. Like, zero chance. I would have.
But like Jabari went on some, Jabari went on some heaters from 3 in college. I don't remember Chris going on like the same heaters Jabari did in college. Like Jabari can get hot. He just hadn't done it in the NBA. Well, he had a 3 for 3 game. I don't know. Like Eric, the Blazers, if they want mid players that are like 10th, 11th men, like especially with this core, they need to be shooters. Like, I'd rather have a 3-point specialist in Chris Murray's spot than Chris Murray. Because in a game like tonight, it's like Chris Murray's supposed to do all these little things. Oh, the little things didn't show up. So he basically contributed nothing. Whereas if you got a guy that can really shoot, at least they'll space the floor. They can do absolutely nothing, but they can space the floor consistently and give you a little bit more space for your offense for other guys to try and get going.
If Chris would have gone 6 for 6 tonight, his percentage would only raised to 32%.
Yeah, he's shot more threes this year than Jabari. Chris Murray last year, 26.8% from 3. This season, 26.9% from 3. He's very consistent, at least. And this year, 40% from the free throw line. They picked up his option for next year, correct? So, yes. Do they pick it up for year 4?
I think looking back on the offseason, I mean, we've talked about it a lot on this channel, but overall Blazer fandom, I don't think it's talked enough how we basically just after the draft we're like, 8 through 15 on a roster, we're just going to run back the same team, like all the same bench guys, not have anyone different in that. Like,
take a chance on someone different. Tamani was the 52nd pick in his draft. You try and find the next Tamani. Like, take a chance. Chris is never going to be more than just like a 9th man at best or a 10th man at best. Why do you need him on that roster spot? The only reason why you'd hang on to him beyond like next season at this point is because we spent a first round pick on him and we don't want to look bad. So we're just going to try and see it through to the end. But, like, you wasted a first-round pick. Okay, you wasted a first-round pick. In that same draft, you got a second-round pick that was a steal and might be a top 5 player from the draft. Well, not top 5, because you got the Thompson twins, you got Scoot, you got Brandon Miller, you got Wemby. But, no, I saw an article ranking the top sophomores, and Tamani was number 4. But it wasn't counting guys that were injured. And I think it was just counting production this year. Like, Tamani is legitimately a top 6-7 prospect from that draft. Okay, you hit on him. It makes up for, well, you also passed on him for Ryan Repair and Chris Murray, but you got him in that trade, all right? So you can sit there, you say you hit on him, all right, and you spent a first-round pick on Chris Murray. That was a mistake. Like, this is what you got back for Josh Hart. It sucks. At the end of the day, like, he's not athletic at the NBA level. He's not fluid at the NBA level. He's a bad shooter from both the free throw line and from 3. And yeah, he does some nice little things, but that's it. And he's already, 24? He's going to turn 25 before next season? Like, why? What is the reward? What is the reward for keeping him on the roster? I'd rather take a chance on somebody that might be a worse than him, but is like 20, and maybe down the line gives you a reward. Or hopefully you find the next Tamani Kamara. Like, you don't want to keep guys on the end of the roster that don't have upside to be starting caliber guys. That's how you miss on guys like Tamani, because you want to keep guys like Chris. So I wouldn't pick up his option, because you have to decide before next season?
Yeah, it's like October 31st, I think.
For his 4th year option? Yeah, like, why?
Well, that's why I would just throw him in a trade this
Yeah.
summer. And
If anybody
not have
values
that
him,
problem.
get something back.
Yeah.
Get
But
something
even
back.
if you don't get anything back, maybe it's just a salary dump or whatever. But
Yeah, yeah, it's a sunk cost. Like you can't
yeah,
keep taking up a roster spot if
the,
just because you spent a pick on a guy. Like he is what he is.
and it's not just Chris. I mean, like we talked about Jabari being like he had a good game this game, obviously, but like same type of situation with him,
Yeah,
Banton, Dwop, like all these guys. Like so, we give away basically all our second round picks last year. Could have had someone like Jalen Wells on our bench,
yeah,
who's going to make first team all rookie.
yeah.
So like that's why you should be like at least one or two of those spots you should be turning over every year and trying to find, like you said, the next Tamani
Yeah.
or a Jalen Wells type. Like
Yeah.
you're not going to hit on them. Like they're going to turn out like Chris a lot of times, and that's fine. But like you got to keep trying to hit on them. So
And
that's
I think Memphis is a good example too. You bring up Jalen Wells, but like Vince Williams Jr. I know he's kind of struggled this year because he's barely played because he's been hurt. But last year he averaged 10 points per game, 5.5 boards, 3.5 assists, shot 45% from the field and 38% from three. That's like a
Joe was out
6'5"
there,
shooting guard.
Scottie Pippen Jr. undrafted, like
Yep.
going crazy, and like
Exactly. You know, Santi Aldama was the last pick in the first round a couple years back, the 30th pick. Nobody expected him to be as good as he's been, right? Like, that's a team that is willing to, like, cycle over and just keep trying to find these types of guys.
got hurt most of the year,
But they took him in the second round. You know what I mean? It's like, look at these guys that they've hit on, right? Of course, they're anchored by two guys that were top 4 picks with Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant. But look at everybody else. Desmond Bane was a 30th pick.
Yeah.
Like look at all these guys they got. Look how much depth they have, right? And Jay Huff has been, when he's played, legitimately really good this year. Like Jay Huff should probably be a backup center somewhere. He's playing in 12 minutes a game, but he's averaging 7 points a block in 12 minutes, shooting 42% from 3, right? Like he's at per 36 in 48 games, playing 12 minutes a game, but per 36, he's averaging 21 points, 2.5 blocks, and 6 boards. The rebound is not the best, but and shooting 42% from 3. Like if I'm Portland, I'm not sitting here paying $8 and $35 million next year. They're probably gonna have to, but it's like start Clingan and then just go sign a Jay Huff off the bench to provide you a floor spacing big because this team needs more shooting, right? Like.
Well, it is an expiring start this summer, so maybe
Yeah.
maybe that's a possibility. But
like Jay Huff is a guy that would be on the radar for a backup center spot behind Clingan. I also want to try have Avdia a little bit as a backup 5 in some small ball lineups where you can play 5 out like the Celtics do, and if you have like Kamara on the floor at the same time, if you have Grant back, secondary rim protector, like maybe you can be good enough defensively and then just run and play 5 out and really make things work. But yeah, like find the next Jay Huff, because Jay Huff I think could be a backup center on a good team, just based on how he's played this year because he's had some really good games. But that's the thing, is like nobody respects Jay Huff because we barely know him, right? And he's not on our team. What do you like? If Chris Murray was anywhere else, we wouldn't even like view him as a guy that's gonna stick in the league at all, and that's kind of my point. So he had a rough game today. Chris did. You gotta, I don't know. Like he has to find a way to make more threes, man. But his shot is stiff, Eric.
yeah, it really is.
Players that are as stiff as he is, just with his movement and with his jumper. You know me in drafts, Eric. I'm a movement pattern guy. It's why I really did not like Chris Murray in that draft. He's just stiff. Like, he's not fluid enough for the NBA level, and his jumper's stiff, and, like, I forget what he shot his last year in college. I had my questions about how good of a shooter he'd be in the league. I didn't think he'd be this bad, though. I did not think he'd be this bad. But, like, his form's not fluid. And he has, like, a low set point. I don't know. It's just the way he shoots the ball. It's like looks like it's not supposed to go in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes you, as chat asking, what, how about his repairman in practice and stuff if he's not getting any chance of rotation? Is and that's another guy. Like maybe it's
At least
perfect
he's
to
still
take a chance
20.
on him. Yeah, you take a chance on him. Like this guy, I wouldn't mind keeping around for one more year just in case he pops. But like, I mean, maybe it's something where he's not showing any progress either. But hard to know because he never plays. But
I mean, but like Eric, if he's not, if this team is down on him and like don't view him long term as somebody that they want to invest in already when he's only 20 and you knew he was going to be a project, don't you have to kind of start doubting the Blazers scouting? Because you took Chris Murray at 23, and then you took Ryan Rupert at 43, and you took him over Toumani Camara. Right? So, like, sure, we can give all this credit for them trading for Toumani Camara, but you took Rupert over him. Right? And it's like everybody loves this team scouting department because you got Mike Schmitz. Everybody knows Mike Schmitz, Draft Express, former ESPN guy, right? So it's like, cool, we got Mike Schmitz. But like at some point, you have to start making things work with some of these picks, and it's like the Blazers did a better job in the past. Where they got like Pat Connaughton, he's having a bad year, but he was a second-round pick, 41st pick, and like most 41st picks don't end up having the NBA career Pat Connaughton is at. They drafted Gary Trent Jr. in the second round, right? And I think there's another second-round pick, like even back to, I'm just talking about like Olshay's tenure, Will Barton in the second round, right? You drafted Damian Lillard 6th overall when you could easily just sat there and taken Harrison Barnes or Austin Rivers, hyped young guy.
Drummond.
Drummond, but you took Dame. Anthony Simons with the 24th overall pick has been a great return on value for the 24th pick. And yeah, there's some misses in there, but it's like you go from that to we're not even going to use our seconds when we had them last year because we want to just keep the same kind of stuff on the roster. And like you took Chris Murray 23rd overall and like Rupert if they're out on him. It's like those two picks show me more than you just sitting there and taking Scoot at 3 because he's like consensus 3rd pick on the board, right? Or sitting there and taking Clingan at 7 because he's consensus like top 7 player on the board. Like, yeah, you took Sharp when you could have taken Dyson Daniels, I guess, or somebody else. So, yeah, sure, give a little credit there. But, like, I'm not sold on our scouting department. I am not sold on our scouting department.
See, in a few minutes, once we are done with the game, need to talk about this Dame documentary that a lot of information came out from. But,
yeah. I'm ready to transition to that.
The thing is though, like it's like I don't mind like 43rd pick Ryan Rupert. I'll take it every time. Like right, what doesn't pan out or pans out, like I'm gonna say that was a decent risk, right? Like that kind of player profile, a lengthy wing that's young, could develop into something, could never turn out. But that's the right kind of player to take at 43, especially on a team that was getting ready to piss Dame off to the point where he's going to request a trade, right? But
can I add something real quick that goes right along with what you just said, though?
Yeah.
I fully agree, but also at some point, if you keep taking those risks and none of them pan out, then it's like, okay, you're not taking the right risky guys.
True.
Or you don't know how to develop them.
But what I was going to say is, if you're in the process of like kind of building around guys or taking chances on repair, then the picks like Chris Murray make no sense. Like taking him 20 picks earlier. You might as well have taken 2 shots at guys like that and done that. Or, like you said, you're not picking the right guys because there was another 23-year-old you could have taken, Tamani Kamara, and that if you didn't care about age, you should have maybe seen that or something. But like, I'm just happy we have him now. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, guys that have panned out after that pick, Julian Strother would be really good on this team, Eric. That's the kind of the shooter we need at a small forward spot. He's shooting 36% from three this year, 4.3 attempts per game in 22 minutes, so he shoots a lot. He's kind of cooled off, but he's a shooter, right? And he's in year 2, and he's 22, not 24, almost 25, right? And I had a lot more faith in Strother being able to come into the league and shoot the three than Chris Murray. And he's in Denver's rotation for a really good Denver team right now, playing 22 minutes a game for a really good Denver team, right? Chris Murray can't even break into the Blazers rotation like that. You know, if Julian Strother was on this Blazers team, he'd probably be playing 30 minutes a game right now. So you got taken 29th overall. Bryce Sensabaugh's had some really good moments this year for the Jazz. And he's shooting 38% from three. He's averaging 9.5 points per game in 18 minutes. Per 36, that's 19 points per game, right? So there is a couple of guys that already, it's like, yeah, you know, and these are all younger guys that are already better. That's kind of the problem. Marcus Sasser doesn't really make sense on our team, but, like, he's been better. Ben Shepherd played some playoff minutes for the Pacers. He's been better. Nick Smith Jr. is having some good moments this year, and not really. He's 30% from three. But he's also 20 years old. He's not 24, right? So it's like literally almost every pick after Chris Murray is like, I'd rather have this guy, I'd rather have this guy, I'd rather have this guy. Now, it's funny because the one guy we wanted was Leonard Miller, and he has done absolutely nothing, but he's also been really good in the G League and also is playing on a really good team and is also still only 21. So I'd rather take a chance on a Leonard Miller panning out, and even if he doesn't pan out, at least you took on a chance on a guy that could be something instead of taking somebody that you know is never going to be a starter in the first round. And that was the problem with the Chris Murray pick. And that's something that hopefully the Blazers can learn from, because if they have another later first-round pick in the future, it's like you got to find the guys that can actually pan out to the point where they can make a legitimate contribution to your team. I don't think Chris Murray is going to be that guy. I just don't. So, yeah. Miles Martin says, I feel like the Chris pick was very influenced by his brother's one good year. Yeah, that's also kind of the problem I have with that pick is if they were actually influenced by that, that is really a bad sign. That's a red flag.
He did have, I mean, it was a year later, a year older, because they're the same age, they're twins. But, like, he did have a similar, like, jump play, like, when he finally was the man. But
he was clearly much stiffer. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
That's the problem, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I understand, but he was also the 23rd pick versus the 4th pick, too. So,
yeah. But also, it's like, Keegan should not have been the 4th pick.
Yeah.
I was screaming that. Like, he is not 4th pick caliber. You're drafting a role player with the 4th pick when you could draft a future star. The Kings could feel a lot better about their future right now if they had Shaedon Sharpe or even Benedict Mathurin. Even Dyson Daniels is better than him. Right? I forget who went 9th. Was that Sohan?
Yeah, Sohan.
Who do you think is better right now, Keegan Murray or Sohan? Or Sohan?
I mean, they're both really good defensively. Yeah, I don't know. It's close.
Do you know which one of them is shooting a higher thrpoint percentage?
That's what you're asking. I'm going to say Sohan.
Yeah, Sohan. No, he shoots a lot less, but
that's crazy.
I think Sohan's a little better. And then who was the 10th pick?
Johnny Davis, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, was that the Johnny Davis? Okay, so yeah, Johnny Davis sucks. But it's like out of the top 9 picks, Keegan Murray's the worst one. Keegan Murray, you're drafting a role player, a guy who's clearly never going to be a star at 4. When you had a bunch of guys that like had the upside of being a star. And the thing is, all those guys with that upside, like Ivy, Mathurin, Sharpe, are already better. And even the more role player guys are already better with Dyson Daniels and Sohan, in my opinion. So it's just like, Why? Why? Like, he should not have been the 4th overall pick, but then he has a good rookie season. They make the playoffs, so a lot of hype around him. So then the Blazers draft Chris Murray at 23. Even though Keegan was clearly better coming into the league as a prospect. Like, they weren't the same prospect. The thing is like, if they were not twins and had a similar arc, like, I don't think people would be comparing them because they would look different and they play different. But just because they're twins, it's like, oh, look at Keegan in his rookie year, right? And Chris kind of had a similar arc in college, so theoretically, he can be like 80% of what Keegan is. So it's just it's a flawed way of thinking, for sure.
Trevin says Mike Schmidt said that Keegan should have gone 4th. Or had him as 4th on his board or something.
I mean, that's what he does as a living, but so does every other front office scouting department, so some are better than others. Hopefully we have one of the better ones. I'm not sitting here saying, like, I think Schmitz is bad or I think the Blazers have a bad scouting department. I have my question marks, okay? I think it's questionable right now, and they're going to have to find a way to hit. Kenneth says, didn't you rave about Davis stories? All you talked about is not easy to draft. Well, I was late to the Davis trade, man. And I had him like where everybody else had him. I was late to the Davis trade, and I had him on par with consensus. Okay.
No, we're not trying to say that no one misses. We both missed on several prospects.
Do you think I'm more spot on with like guys that I have below consensus or guys that I have above consensus?
I think you. I'd have to think about that one. I don't know.
Interesting question.
Yeah.
Because I was like confident.
There's some on each, yeah.
I was confident with fading Keegan. And I was confident with fading Chris, and both of those were right. I think I might be a little better at just saying guys are overrated. But a lot of it's like the way guys move with the ball in their hands, like movement pattern stuff. It's like you can tell when a guy's not going to be able to like create shots at a high enough level to be a star. So if you're drafting him as a star, it's questionable. So I don't know. Tori, you said Miller was overrated. Leonard Miller? Brandon Miller? I said I would take Amen over Brandon Miller. I had Miller in my top 5. I forget if I had him 4th or 5th. But I said I'd take Amen over Brandon Miller. And right now, I fully stand on that. I would say Miller was more overrated compared to, like, Amen.
Yeah, see, this happens all the time because people say I hated Amen Thompson because we had those arguments back and forth. You wanted Amen and I wanted Brandon Miller if Speed wanted to, right? And I think both of us, you could say both of us were right. You know,
it's still too early, yeah.
Either way, but like either one of those guys would have fit what we were doing or whatever. Like it would have been fine either way. Like it wouldn't have been like a disaster. But like I had Amen like right at 4th, so like it wasn't like I didn't like Amen. Like I thought he was awesome. Like I just like Brandon Miller a little more for a team that was trying to win. But like I don't know, like you can't go wrong either way. But like I didn't hate Amen. That I think the same thing's happening with you. Like people think.
Yeah. Matt Cardell says it's more likely that people are going to fail. No, the top 9 from Keegan's draft has been very successful. The guy I faded the most out of that top 9, well, I faded Sohan too, but those guys are 8th and 9th best players, in my opinion, from that top 9. Yeah.
He did not fade. Sorry, had Leonard Miller like 10th. Like
he was talking about Brandon Miller.
No, he said Leonard in chat.
Oh, no. I loved Leonard Miller.
We both had him like 10th on our draft board, yeah. And we were both screaming for the Blazers to take him at 23.
Yeah, and he has done absolutely nothing. But, I mean...
He hasn't even given it a chance, really.
Yeah, maybe he'd be getting that chance in Portland. That's the thing. Situation matters. So, all right, you want to talk about this Dame article real quick, and then we'll do Tankathon, or do you want to do Tankathon first?
Since we're talking about this draft, it ties into it. So
okay, go ahead.
So there was like it was like the story of Dame or something. I forgot what it was called, but like the Bucks put out like some documentary article or like video about Dame and like Marcus Aldridge was on it, which we'll get to in a
Yeah.
minute. But like, so in that thing, Dame says he remembers telling management if we get the number one pick and it's Wemby, that's fine. And if not, that pick is going to be a good asset to use. Other teams are going to want it. And then, yeah.
I don't know. That sounds familiar.
Where have we
I
heard
don't know.
that?
I don't know where we heard that. I don't know. It sounds vaguely familiar. Sounds like maybe we heard that before that draft happened.
I don't know.
I don't know. No.
That'd be crazy if someone said that before.
It would be crazy, you know. They should. If somebody said that beforehand, they should really be respected, right?
You'd think, but yeah.
Go on.
And then he said, but that wasn't the route they took, and it didn't make sense to me. I remember watching the draft in Paris. It was very late. Everyone was asleep except for my father. We sat down to watch on the couch. My dad didn't want me to leave Portland. They passed pick 1 and 2, and it's our turn. And he's like, "Look, they're going to trade him to pick 3 now." I was like, "Bro," laughs. They chose Scoot, and I wasn't set on leaving. But how do you start with Ant, Shaden, Scoot, and me? If everything goes wrong, you're going to transfer the 33-year-old. After the pick, I go to sleep, and my dad stayed up watching the whole draft, hoping they trade the pick.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. I mean, this is all come out like I forget if it was Haynes or Woes or whoever, but after Dame was traded, this kind of like all came out anyway. But like, so we all knew this, but to hear like Dame say it instead of just in a insider article, like it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny how 2 weeks before the draft, we were already hinting that was going to be the path. And then you had all these plugged-in media guys that talked to everybody in the freaking league, apparently, that were talking about how they had to wait until they were on the clock to actually trade the pick, and that they were going to be aggressive in trading the pick. And then after the fact, had revisionist history. But yet somehow those are the people that should be trusted when it comes to this team. It's just funny. It's just funny, man. It's funny how, like, that whole thing went down, and then everything that I've seen is just like, yeah, we're spot on, man. We were spot on. I mean, just blunt, simple, like, I don't know. It's just funny how you just heard locally the Blazers side of things, and that's it.
Well, I'll say this. The thing I can give Joe Cronin and the Blazers organization 100% credit, they controlled the narrative, and they made sure that they got what they thought would be the best narrative out there, and they made sure they hammered it home with the people that would talk about it endlessly, and they got their message out there, and a lot of people bought it. But yeah, I mean, it's
Don't just buy what $1 billion corporation sells you, man. All right, that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. Guys, can we just move on, please? No. This came out today. We're gonna talk about it. All right. You can move on. We're gonna talk about it though. Yeah.
And also,
so I just thought that was interesting. The Aldridge stuff. I don't know if you want to touch upon.
yeah. Well, one last thing about the thing. It also makes it seem like if Scoot would have went 2, I think Dame reconsiders his stance and like maybe tries to make it work with Brandon Miller and Ben Thompson or whatever.
Forward, yeah.
Yeah, so like
like how do you go into next year with Dame, Scoot, Ant, Sharp, like trying to win? Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, and the fact that people were just like, Dame asked out, he didn't stay loyal. It's like, stay loyal to what? Them drafting 2 young guards and keeping a 3rd young guard behind them to try and win when they self-admittedly, going into that offseason, they said their lack of size and their youth was a problem in terms of them trying to win games, and they just tripled down on it. I mean, just like the common sense, man, is just like, obviously like, however you want to look at it, they either didn't make an effort or they just completely suck at being able to commit to a plan. Like, I don't know. Either way, it's a failure on the front office's part. That's who's to blame there. Like, Dame made it clear to the front office, and he basically just said that. Like, he made it clear to the front office, and they couldn't figure anything out. So that's either their own incompetency, I guess, on the trade market, or it's, they wanted to go that route. I think they wanted to go that route. Fully. So then everything played out the way it wanted to play out.
Yeah, and then the fact that they traded Josh Hart and got like a late first back for him ended up they didn't move that pick, because remember the time was like, yeah, like even like the Heikins and Meringues and stuff, they were all saying we were going to get our pick back from Chicago using that pick, right? And so that would open up our future first, so we could make a big splash. We didn't even do that, Tori, for Dame. Like, so like we didn't even try to do that kind of stuff, and then
instead we drafted Chris Murray, and people tried to pitch him as like somebody that could help Dame win now.
Right, and then yeah, Dame saw right through that, but the other thing is, I mean, I forget if it was Woj or Shams once again, but it was reported that once the 3rd pick was Scoot Henderson, we did not take a single phone call. We refused to take anyone's call. New Orleans desperately tried calling us like 4 times, I think, and we just refused to answer while on the clock. So we didn't even see what was available with the 3rd pick, that was the direction they wanted to go. That's fine, whatever. But like,
let's not get it confused. That's the direction they want to go. Yeah,
yeah, right. So, yeah, yeah. We could talk about this longer, but yeah, let's just talk about the Aldridge stuff real quick. So LaMarcus, there's another thing, Troy. I hate that this fan base always puts me in a position to have to defend Neil Olshey. Like, I cannot stand this, but so LaMarcus came out and said a year after he chose to go to San Antonio, he wanted to come back to Portland. And then again, like 2 or 3 times late in his career, including he wanted to play his last year here or whatever. Okay. And then I saw all these people tweeting, like Pinwheel Empire and all these people tweeting, Olshey's a clown, he sucks, Aldridge wanted to come back or whatever. These are all the same people. Remember what Dame said he wanted to stay at the end of last summer? We're like, good riddance to you,
Yeah, the double standard is insane, bro.
but just ignoring all that, okay? This dude leaves you for another team. You got nothing for him after he told all of us he was going to stay.
Yeah.
He was on a max contract. We would have had to give up a crap load to get him. Like, there were some trade rumors with Aldridge when he was in San Antonio, not to us, but like it was like insane asking price that San Antonio was alleged to want for him. So like a year later, Olshey's a clown because he didn't give up a bunch of first round picks and actual like players to get Aldridge back here, like when he left for nothing a year earlier. That would have been the dumbest move a GM has ever made. And we have Joe Cronin as our GM. So like, how can you blame Joe Cronin for not doing that?
Or blame Neil Olshey for not doing that?
Yeah, Neil Olshey. I mean, Joe Cronin was here too, I guess. But But the other thing is, okay, so let's maybe at the end of the year in his career, you could argue, he signed with the Nets a couple years,
Yeah.
or a couple times. He had some heart problems again. I don't think he fully played a whole season towards the end of his career. It's that would have been an issue here too. But let's just say we should have done it for sentimental reasons. Okay, that was a team that was trying to win. And what I heard, and I said this back then because we already had Blazers Uprise this time. And I said this back then. LaMarcus, if he was coming back to Portland, he didn't think of it as, oh, I'll just sit on the end of the bench and be happy playing out my last year in a eighth man type role off the bench. He was that was his skill level at the time. He wasn't a starting level player anymore, especially with our defensive needs with the Dame CJ backcourt. So the thing is, he thought he was going to come back and sign with us, go back to being the starter, and Dame and CJ back, or Dame and Aldridge back at it again. He was looking at it that mindset. Yeah. Reminded me at the time, and I even said this at the time, exactly like Melo coming in, right? Melo was a starter. He's not going to come off the bench. He ended up coming off the bench his second year here, but he had to be talked into that. Remember that whole thing? We had to promise him that he would get a certain amount of minutes off the bench or something when we signed him. And then Aldridge was looking at it I'm doing Portland a favor by coming back. I'm the starter. I'm starting at the 4 if I'm re-signing with them. And the Blazers were you're not going to start. So it's semantics, but I could see why Olshey didn't want to deal with him. And plus he lied to him before, and I don't know. So I don't blame Olshey for that. It would have been cool to have Aldridge play at some point at the end of his career back here again. Yeah. But he did leave us, so I don't have any ill will towards anyone for not re-signing him.
Yep.
And also, very sensitive guy. It was said the whole practice facility front office had to walk on eggshells around him and appease his every need and all this kind of stuff for years, trying to hope that he would stay, and then he's left anyway. So
and we've heard this from I don't want to say the name, but in a group setting we have heard this from people that you should absolutely believe it from. That's all I'll say.
But it did come out Quick had some articles back in the day about how the team went out to dinner and they knocked on his door, but he didn't hear or something, and then he thought this whole team, Brandon Roy hated him or something because he didn't invite him out to dinner or something like that, and for the longest time they never talked, and then they finally became best friends, stuff like that. There was all kinds of stories about how sensitive and wishy-washy he was, and I don't even think he necessarily lied, saying he wanted to be the best Blazer ever and all that stuff that year before he left. It's just the guy just changes his mind so often. So I don't know if you could even believe much of what he was saying today anyway.
Yeah, listen, there's no ill will towards Aldridge at all, of course, right? There's none. It's just these were legitimate things, legitimate problems where it's that's why you don't bring him back. And we were saying that at the time, first time we wanted back, you'd have to give up way too much for a dude that just left you for nothing after convincing you essentially not to trade him because he said he was coming back. Okay? So you're just shooting yourself in the foot for what? Okay? And then that's the thing with the whole Dame's thing. We got stuff back for Dame. We didn't get anything back for Aldridge, right? So we got screwed there. And then you would have had to give up a lot to get him back, and basically you're just a square one, but with a lot less assets to build a team. So what's the point? And then afterwards, it's he would have wanted to start later in his career. He wasn't starting caliber anymore. Would have been really good off the bench, but if he wanted to start, no, it doesn't really make sense. And then some of the locker room problems that weren't huge locker room problems, but stuff that made things off a little bit. It's why you didn't bring him back. But that's the thing is people love sentimentality, okay? And they hate Neil Olshey. So, oh man, we had a chance to get our good old guy, LaMarcus Aldridge back, and Olshey stopped us from that. Screw Neil Olshey. This is why we hate Neil Olshey. It's just illogical. It's just illogical. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Nick says radio said it was 2017 when he first attempted to come back. He was an all-star in 2018 and 2019. Yeah, that's when he was still under contract with that big contract. I think he ended up signing an extension too in San Antonio. And he was decent in San Antonio. Like you said, all-star a couple of those years. Mm-hmm. But, like, that's why we would have had to give up a ton for him. So, like, I mean, maybe we should have given up the 3 first instead of drafting Zach Collins in what was that, 2017?
Or he just should have stayed.
Yeah, but like
the thing is, if we gave up those first, it would be like, wow, we gave up a chance to draft Donovan Mitchell just to get back the guy who left us.
Right? Yeah, dude, we would be. I mean, Olshey already gets murdered, but like he would be. That would be like all-time cloud show.
Yeah, people would say like, man, Aldridge left him. He got nothing back for Aldridge. And then he traded a bunch of stuff to get him back instead of drafting like Donovan Mitchell and OG Anunoby, or you know what I mean? Like we could have traded up. We could have drafted Jared Allen. Right? We could have drafted a bunch of different players in that draft. That draft was very deep. Right? And he passed on it to bring back a guy who left him for nothing because he didn't trade him. Like, people would absolutely find a way to spin it to, like, look how much of an idiot Olshey is for getting LaMarcus back. That's the problem. Is like, I'm not an Olshey fan, man, but there's a lot of critiques of him that are just completely illogical that during the early part of this channel, we had to defend it because it's just like, what you're saying makes no sense. What you're saying literally makes no sense. There is a clear double standard with Cronin and Olshey. Cronin's a nice guy. People like him. The media likes him because he's cool with them. Gives them more insight. So they will spin a more pro Joe narrative on his behalf. And people eat it up. And that's how you get a guy. You got a guy that absolutely knows how to spin the PR game. And you had a guy beforehand who was absolutely awful with it. And it's a big reason why there is different sentiments. Now, Olshey kind of pissed away Dame's whole career here. He did not do enough to build around him. When Olshey was fired, I was happy. Right? Like, he was an asshole to the media in a lot of situations. And he didn't do enough to build around Dame. He had his own flaws. But not bringing back LaMarcus Aldridge was not one of them. So, it's just funny how there's all the criticism for that, but then, like, Joe's whole handling of the Dame thing is just, like, perfect.
Side note, have you seen Zach Collins' last 5 games on the Bulls?
No.
Yeah. 20-12. 16-5, 15-13, 21-17, 19-5, 8-10. That's 6 games. So
he needed to go to a team like the Bulls to kind of reclaim some of his value because he's skilled. Like he's just been having a down year this year. But, like, if you look at him 2 years ago, 2022, 2023, he averaged almost 12 points, 6 boards, almost 3 assists, and shot 37% from 3, 52% from the field, and was, like, a solid defender. I mean, that's a pretty good big. His contract doesn't make sense for us, but, like, I wouldn't hate him as the backup center. Like, hopefully he can get the shooting back up to 37%. On his career, he's 33%. But, like, be like a rim-protecting stretch 5 that can pass a little bit would be, with an edge, too, I wouldn't hate that behind Clingan. I want somebody that can shoot and not be complete garbage defensively behind Donovan Clingan, which is why, like, Jay Huff is somebody I listed as a target earlier because he's also kind of in that archetype.
Ooh, you got me thinking.
Why? About getting our pick back and getting Collins in the process or something?
I didn't think about our pick, but I was thinking Ayton for Collins and like someone else. I wonder if they do that since Ayton's expiring.
Ayton in the worst 2029 first for Collins and multi-year contract they don't want. Other than Patrick Williams, I don't want that contract. I couldn't imagine for the next 3 years paying Patrick Williams and Jeremy Grant $50 million a year.
Yeah.
That's gross. But
I'll be right back.
All right. Well, I was gonna say something for Eric, but
go ahead real quick.
With the Blazers being better, it makes even more sense to trade for their pick back. Not necessarily to trade their future first, but all right, if the Blazers are on the doorstep of the playoffs now, next year what? All right, maybe they get an 8 seed. You would want the 16th pick. You know what I mean? So that's the thing is everybody's like, why would you trade for your pick back? Well, at some point you're going to lose the 16th pick most likely. So I would definitely try and do worst 2029 first, some seconds, Ayton for Collins, our pick back, and another salary piece. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right,
go on. Extrovert says Zach got bullied constantly for us. How you try to be tough but then make sure to fix his hair. Bro, he was skinny. He's a lot stronger now. He can fix his hair as much as he wants. Ayton and a first for Lonzo and Vucevic. Why the hell would we want Vucevic? We got Clingan. We didn't draft Clingan at 7 to be a backup. I think Vucevic is does he have 2 years left on his contract? Why would you be trading for a 35-year-old center? Especially giving up a pick just to get a guy who's going to be 35 next season. And has had more down seasons lately. He's having a good season this year, but last year he was pretty brutal. Doesn't really make sense. Yeah, last year he was inefficient and he's not a good defender, so Vucevic would be filler. Yeah, I mean Vucevic isn't really a filler piece though. Because my wife is Serbian and I like Serbs. You finally justified it. Nice. That makes sense now. I understand. Ayton and all the picks / swaps for Zion. All the picks? No. Nope. Everybody's getting caught up with how well he's playing. I'm just caught up with the fact that he is playing. This dude cannot stay healthy. I'll take a flyer on Zion, but I'm not trading all the picks for him. Definitely not. I'd absolutely take a flyer on him. If he can miraculously stay healthy, he could be a top 5 to 10 player in the league. I mean, that's kind of what the Blazers need. Absolutely take a flyer, but you don't go all in on that. It's too risky.
I don't see it. There's no way. If he's legitimately available, there's no way you're getting him for a flyer price. There's going to be
you'd have to go all
more.
in, man. I mean, if he was healthy, if you could have faith in him being healthy, I would kind of actually be willing to go all in on him and just say that's our star, and Sharp can be our number 2 and Scoot can be our number 3 or number 4, Denny can be our number 3 or number 4. Things fall into place if you have a healthy Zion. Shooting is still a problem though. Shooting is still a problem, so you'd need to find a stretch 5 off the bench, but yeah, healthy Zion here would be phenomenal, but healthy Zion is a rare occurrence. And the most likely thing is he wouldn't be fully healthy. He'd miss time. And then you just went all in on somebody who's not even able to help you potentially in playoff runs, like has happened with the Pelicans. And it's all right, now you're kind of screwed. You're kind of screwed. And that's the more likely outcome. He's played 6 seasons. 4 of them, he hasn't played more than 30 games, including this year. He's at 24 games. Maybe he gets past 30. But 4 of his 6 seasons, they might shut him down at some point to tank. 4 of his 6 seasons, he can't get past 30 games.
Also, we have that one good pick in 2029.
Yeah.
But outside of that, we now don't have a good pick of this draft. We can't trade too many of our
Yeah.
after this draft. I think we trade 2 future firsts, 2030 and 2032.
Yeah.
So like we can't even like put together like OKC for example is most likely gonna have a higher pick than us this year and could put together a much bigger package and take that risk and still be fine if Zion doesn't work out. Like it's I don't know how we compete with some teams.
I think they might trade for KD.
Yeah, that's true.
That would be interesting. Bring KD back to OKC. That'd be fun. And then when the Sonics get an expansion franchise, then KD can go there and go back to Seattle. Finish off his career with the ultimate level of sentimentality. Is that even a word? I don't know. I'm going to say it is. Tankathon, Eric. We're back up to 10th. And we're a half game behind 9th because San Antonio won. And we are 3.5 behind 8th. And Brooklyn and Philadelphia are trying to tank their way out of the play-in. You're going to have Chicago and Atlanta. Here's the thing. If Atlanta's 10th or higher, Portland gets a second-round pick. Because they have Atlanta's protected, like they only get it if it's 31-40. So I thought that's interesting. Basically, in this scenario, we'd hope Chicago plays their way in. So that Portland could jump above them. And then, I don't know, I think 8's kind of the ceiling here, tank-wise. 3.5 behind Chicago. Like, they can play their way in, or maybe you can out-tank them. And then you'd have 6% chance at Coop. And 26% chance of the top 4. Anyway. Let's roll this thing. See what we get. All right. 14 is the Atlanta Hawks. 13 is the Dallas Mavericks. 12 is the Houston Rockets. 11 is the San Antonio Spurs. And 10 is your Portland Trailblazers. Yeah. 9 is your San Antonio Spurs. 8 is the OKC Thunder, so Chicago moved up.
See, we lose and we don't move up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, ethical take tonight.
Brutal. 7 is Brooklyn. We moved up the last 2 times, right? Which was cool.
Yeah.
6 is Toronto. 5 is Washington getting screwed. 4 is New Orleans. 3 is Charlotte. 2 is the Chicago Bulls. And the first pick goes to Utah again for the second straight stream.
Boo, Utah.
Boo. I want to see him end up in, like, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like, if he's not going to Portland. An Eastern Conference team like Brooklyn, I feel like Charlotte is just gross. I don't want to watch him get frozen out of the offense by LaMelo Ball taking 10 one-legged threes a game, you know? like Charlotte's where Ace Bailey belongs. He can take all his contested 18-footers, and LaMelo can take all his one-legged threes.
Imagine if this time last year, when Brooklyn didn't have any of their picks, you would have said that they we're going to get Cooper Flag or something like that. That'd be so weird.
Mean, but like in our mock-off season, I traded for our picks back. Brooklyn's.
Yeah.
I also got Gigi Jackson and Cam Whitmore. And I didn't give Nicholas Claxton an overpayment. So I didn't pay $26 million a year for 26% from the free throw line. So that was a win. I don't even remember what else I did, but feels like an eternity since the walk-off season.
You drafted Topic, Collier, and
Collier. That's looking like a good pick. Oh, and Castle.
And Castle, yeah.
W. I mean, I don't know how good Topic is, but Collier at 28, and then because Collier's been really good passer as a rookie point guard. And Castle, rookie of the year. I cooked. Although I forget who I took in the second round. I think my second round was bad. I probably took Ty Grant Foster. Oh, man. Yeah, anyway. We'll be live again tomorrow. Picks Against the Spread, second channel. Live again on Friday. You want to do the mock draft then?
Sure. Sounds good.
We say we're going to do a call-in night. I think we'll just do it the 9th. The early streams, I think, are a little lower viewership-wise. I want to save that for hopefully a win against the Pistons. A little more viewers. More likely to get actual callers because, I don't know, when we did Twitter feed, or Twitter spaces, we got a lot more callers, so we just gotta get more people in our Discord. Anyway, yeah, we'll do 9th, we'll do call-in. Friday, we'll do a mock draft. Conference tournament's about to start up. Selection Sunday's on the 16th. March Madness starts the 20th. So March Madness, 15 days away until the first round starts. One of my favorite days of the year. So looking forward to that. Anything else, Eric?
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Sorry, I've been in and out with my microphone. Just having to cut it out when I'm coughing. So hopefully this will go away and not linger too much longer.
Yep. Hopefully you feel better. Looking forward to tomorrow's stream, Picks Against the Spread. Looking forward to Friday. And then looking forward to being done with the freaking early games for a while, man. Got tired of it. I'm tired of early games. Especially since, it's 4 days a week right now. Even though we have 5-6 Sundays in a row with early stream times. Schedule's a little weird, but looking forward to Friday's mock draft. We were supposed to do it last stream. Eric wasn't here, so we tabled that for a bit. Looking forward to that. We'll have our next big board on the 17th as well, right before March Madness, so going to be some draft content coming up. The Blazers lose. The Blazers get torched by Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard today scored 37 more points than he scored against me when I played him in high school.
You've been saving that joke the entire stream.
The entire stream.
He finally got it off.
The entire stream.
Nice, bro.
Yeah. I don't even think he hit a single three against us, but he hit 10 against the Blazers in 3 quarters. So, should have ran my high school zone defense. Our hybrid 1-2-2, 1-3 run zone that we called Schroeder. Because it locked him up.
Schroeder.
Schroeder, that was our zone in high school.
Like Dennis Schroeder?
Yes. But not like Dennis Schroeder because he wasn't a thing back then. Like Schroeder the dog. We had, or Schroeder, whatever, is from Peanuts, I think. Because we also had a play called Peanuts that some people thought was a different word.
Oh my god.
And we also had a play called Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when my
also had a play called Sally. Is that a character in Peanuts?
Yes.
Yeah.
When my son was little and the Peanuts movie came out, he called it that same thing that you.
Yeah, no T.
Yeah.
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 The P word.
Yeah, when they first taught us to play, I was a freshman. I was like, "You call it what?" Yeah, funny stuff. But yeah, nobody was blocking Peyton Pritchard tonight, man. That dude well.
He doesn't even play bully ball, man. That's crazy.
I know. Yeah. Anyway, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Yeah, I was waiting all stream for that joke. I forgot about that joke. I had to get it off though.
Yeah. Good thing I remembered at the last minute.
Did you see the thumbnail? The picture in the background? Yeah.
That's a high school picture.
Yeah. Anyway, he cooks us whenever he gets the opportunity to, for whatever reason. And yeah, we gave up 19 threes for some reason to Peyton Pritchard and Derek White. And we're trying to chase a play-in, but we're going to give up career highs to Pritchard and White and let them combine for 84 points for fun. So yeah, we'll see if the Blazers can bounce back on Friday at OKC.
Tori, what show or movie should I implement my plays to be called?
I don't know. You should just use phrases from our streams like
Block Pritchard.
Terrible fit here, man.
We ain't got no assets.
Got no assets. Yeah, there you go.
2.2.
You gotta have a play. You gotta have a play called "And a Noon Boy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a new boy. Yep.
And what was the thing you said before that?
Oh, that's our special play.
Did you say a number?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a good rest of your day. Shout out BetUS. We're out of here. We'll be live tomorrow on our second channel, and we'll have the post game on Friday. Yeah, adios. No, I gotta cut to the camera because I gotta do the peace out. Unfortunately, I can't end it on the intro. Have a good rest of your night. Enjoy your Wednesday night. Enjoy your Thursday. Mock draft on Friday. Looking forward to that. Until next time. As always, peace out. Go Blazers!